Welcome to another exciting and informative podcast brought to you by the Fantastic Fathers Community Group. I am your host, Stephen Brown, and we are here once again at the beautiful MediaWorks studio located on Walker Road in Windsor, Ontario. I'd like to give a shout out to all of our amazing sponsors who afford us the opportunity to do what we do for parents and their families within the Windsor Essex community. Starting off with the long-running title sponsor of Fantastic Fathers, the amazing LiUNA Local 625. Build with the best. The wonderful people at the St. Clair College Alumni Association. Professional real estate agent Chris Camburis and his great team of realtors. Stay cool or warm with Fairhall, the home comfort specialists. And lastly, Mathnasium of Tecumseh and LaSalle. Thank you so much for your generosity and deep commitment to our beloved community. For those of you who have never heard of the Fantastic Fathers Community Group, we strive to provide the following. Specifically tailored family events designed to strengthen the bond between parents and their children, creating lifelong memories. Educational opportunities for parents intended to increase knowledge and confidence in their parental abilities. Promotion of fully involved parenting with emphasis on father participation, highlighting the benefits to the family and the betterment of the community. Our program lineup looks to combat the incredibly high rate of children who succumb to social pitfalls when growing up lacking father or male parental figure involvement. The percentages of high school dropouts, teenage pregnancy, drug and alcohol addiction, poverty, homelessness, crime and incarceration have all been proven in modern studies to be significantly reduced when children have access to both loving parents. With all that being said, if we can be of any assistance to you or your family, please contact us at our email address, info@fantasticfathers.ca, or on social media through our open Facebook page simply called Fantastic Fathers. If you are interested in also becoming a valued sponsor of the Fantastic Fathers Community Group, please email us as well at info@fantasticfathers.ca. Thank you very much for listening and or watching, and stay tuned as we will be right back with our latest podcast for your viewing and listening pleasure. All right, Adam, thank you for being here with us today. We really appreciate it. How's life treating you in this crazy time that we're living in?
It's treating me okay. Doing a lot of gardening and, trying to make the best of it, but it's getting harder and harder to do that.
Yeah, how's the kids handling everything?
They're okay. They want to go back to the usual places. If I keep hearing, when the germs are gone, I blank, keep hearing that. So it's tough. We're trying to keep them as shielded from all of that as possible, but it's tough.
Yeah. Well, maybe we should start. If you want to just tell us a little bit about yourself and anything, if you do want to share anything about your family, we'd love to hear it.
Okay. Yeah, sure. So my name's Adam. Of course, I'm a father of 4. I'm also a family law mediator and child protection mediator. I've been doing that for approximately 5-6 years. And it's something that it's a work in progress as far as the job is concerned and the career. There's lots to learn, and every day is a new day. Every interaction I have with separating parties can be, very unique from one to the next. So it's definitely a line of work where you have to keep on your toes and certainly keep up with all of the ongoing evolution of research and of the laws changing. So it's really it's not something where you can let your guard down, I guess, but it is rewarding and it is certainly interesting.
Well, great to hear. What led you to get involved and start doing family mediation services?
So I kind of was identified, I guess, for lack of a better word, by the owner of Bridging Family Conflict, who had said I'd been law clerking with them and said, based on some of the interactions I've seen with you and the clients, and I think this might be a good fit. So would you consider going through the training and the internship and getting accredited to be a mediator? So I thought, it piqued my interest. I had kind of been witnessing mediation as it has been evolving through the work I had done in the law firms, and also some interning that I'd done in the Ontario Court of Justice. So I thought, yeah, I'll give it a shot and just see if it works, you know?
Nice. So, your job as a mediator, in essence, you are to basically you're a neutral party when the families when the parents come in and or obviously we're Fantastic Fathers Community Group, so we're talking about families with kids.
Yes,
So I'm sure in that situation, obviously you're a neutral party when they come in to speak with you.
that's right. And to be clear, I would say the majority of the cases that I deal with, anyways, are separating families with children.
Mhm.
So yeah, I would act as a neutral third party. We say, the place and space to have the conversation in the negotiation to see if there's any common ground that the parties can come to in hopes to resolve any of their family law issues.
Okay, so what sort of matters do you as a mediator deal with when they come in to speak with you?
So, in the context of family law, anything that you would find in the courts, we deal with any of those issues. So, custody, which is now become a dinosaur of a term, but decision making for the children, schedules and parenting time for the children, division of property and assets upon the dissolution um, of a relationship. We can look at different aspects of the time sharing involving like holidays and things like that. So support, of course, is often an issue that needs to be looked at, be it child support, spousal support, and other things that we kind of like to help as well with is the communication and maybe aspects around minimizing conflict and giving educational pieces if they're required and if they're the parties are open to that around conflict and minimizing that and what conflict can do, how it can affect children negatively.
Okay, so it sounds to me like any pretty much anything can be dealt with in mediation that could actually be dealt with in court as well. Is there, or am I wrong with that? Is there anything that you guys can't do as mediators that would need to be done in court?
No, that's right. As far as the issues that are raised, we can deal with all of those issues. Of course, we don't provide a court order, but often what happens is, especially if we are working in tandem with couples that are in a court case, often what will happen is once they've come to mediation, they've addressed the issues and come to an agreement, then what they'll do is they'll bring that forward and have it made into a consent or minutes of settlement and then brought forward into the court to be made then into a court order.
So you could, in essence, you could start mediation right from the beginning, or if you already have a court procedure in process, you could even begin mediation then as well, or maybe even afterwards if something needs changed per se in the court order or something like that.
Yeah, absolutely, Steve.
Mhm.
So all of the above. Ideally, we would like to see clients, as soon as they're both ready after separation, before things can kind of get protracted and heated. Um, so we can see clients then, and we often do. We're starting to get more and more traction over the years, and people are coming to us generally from word of mouth saying, we've had some friends or family that have come to use your services and found that mediation was really cost effective. It left us both feeling, heard and had the ability to, you know, the ability to feel empowered and make up your own, um, your own agreement.
Mhm.
And, we say it keeps people in the driver's seat. So with that being said, I always say there's no bad time for mediation. There may be some better times, but we've had people who are in the court process. They find maybe it's not what they had thought it was going to be. It's lasting a lot longer than they thought it would. So, you know, they give mediation a try. Pre-COVID, I was actually at the courthouse doing on-site mediation. So I was available there several days a week so that there could be referrals coming from either counsel, duty counsel, judges, and or self-referral from the clients. And they had an opportunity to come and utilize our on-site services for free right there. So there was a lot of settlements that had happened right there on the courthouse property, but through mediation. And again, like you had said, so we do often get people who come back. Maybe they've been through the court process previous. They've got a court order. Maybe they've got a separation agreement, and then they find life, as it always does, changes. And maybe someone's got a new job. Someone wants to move. The children are older, so their needs and their interests are different. So whatever it is, something comes up that maybe needs to be readdressed. And so rather than unpack that all in the court system again, we often get people coming into the mediation process to deal with those changes. It could be little tweaks. It could be a complete overhaul. Sometimes a child's moving in with the opposite parent. So things like that, we just kind of address it on an as needs basis and deal with the issues as they come up.
It's so great that this is available. I'm surprised that it's not. I mean, I've even heard rumors before that it's almost mandatory that you try or highly recommended, anyways, that you try mediation before going to actually into family court procedure.
Yeah, and they're certainly taking a look at it. I know that it's. I'm pretty sure in Saskatchewan it's become mandatory. The idea behind it being mandatory, I guess the one issue that can come up is, are people just going to do it because it's mandatory, go through the motions, not really give it a good, honest try, and then, not be successful? So that's something I kind of think about. But I think the reality is if people are willing to give it a try, the majority of the people stick through the process and complete the process successfully with a resolution with all, if not all, most or some of their what they're addressing. So one thing I do tell clients is it's not an all or nothing process as well. So the reality is if you have 6 issues you're addressing, do you want to pay the courts, for the court's time and for the time off work to go through the court and for your counsel to argue about everything when maybe you guys are actually in agreement on 3 of 5 issues, and you can address that in mediation, get a part settlement, and then bring the more contentious issues forward and, kind of laser focus your, the other processes on those outstanding issues. So you get a better sort of, I guess, clearer focus as to what you can't agree to and the other things that are off the table via mediation. But
For sure.
again, once things start to erode, not erode, but once things start to, people start to come into agreement on issues, they can see kind of the light at the end of the tunnel, right? So the further down the road they get to agreeing to most of what they have on the table, there's 1 or 2 issues left. I just find most clients just buckle down and work a little bit harder, maybe compromise a little bit more and come to an agreement on those eventually because they see that it's possible.
So sounds like there's tons of advantages to this, obviously, but would you say there's any risks to starting with right off the bat with mediation?
Well, certainly I would say an important feature to mediation is if you're not sure where you stand prior to beginning mediation, it's recommended that you get legal advice at least to see where you stand. That doesn't necessarily mean you're retaining a lawyer and you're, having them sort of marshal the case through the courts for you. It can just simply be paying for an office consultation with them to get a perspective on, based on the issues that you're dealing with, what are your rights, risks, and sort of obligations with different plans. So people will seek out advice before, during, and after, or one of all three. It's not required. You don't need to have a lawyer to be involved in mediation. But I would say, aside from not getting the legal advice you may need, really, there's not very much risk that I can see. So what we provide is called closed mediation. So what that means is it's an off the table or off the record discussion. So it's not going anywhere. The offers that go across the table aren't going to end up in affidavits. People can't, I can't be compelled to be a witness with respect, as your mediator, to what I've seen go on in mediation. Now, there is an open mediation style, where that can come into play. But with the closed process, we find we don't want people to necessarily be looking for, they're worried about the grade they're going to get based on mediation. We're just looking to provide an honest and open opportunity for them to see if they can agree. So as far as the risks, I really don't see them. We offer our mediation services are through a court connected service program, which offers subsidized rates that are work on a sliding scale based on income and number of dependents. So it's not it's a very affordable option to try. And even if you don't agree, ultimately you can get a better sense of where the other person's at, maybe where their bottom lines are. So, and it is voluntary, so you can withdraw from the process at any time. So really, if it's not working for you and you get that sense, you can make it as long or short of a process as you want. So as far as the risks, I don't particularly see any.
So what if there was, for example, say like a very high conflict couple, and for their own safety, are you able to mediate separately, or or do you have to be in the same room at the same time, or how does that work?
Yeah, no, you don't. You don't have to be in the same room at all. So pre-COVID, we would have both the parties at our office. We have separate floors, maybe separate arrival times. So if parties don't want to see each other face to face, they never have to. The mediator can go back and forth. We call that shuttle mediation. And as far as safety, we're always doing screening to find out if mediation is appropriate, right? And that's an ongoing process that every mediator engages in to ensure that the parties are safe. We're always assessing comfort level. The reality is, if the more comfortable people are, the more logical they're going to be, the less, the more prone they'll be to making good decisions if they're in that mindset. So we certainly don't want anyone engaged in mediation under duress. So we have different options. Nowadays, we're doing exclusively all of our mediations on Zoom. So in doing that, we're looking to assess, are they in a place of privacy and safety when they're engaged in the process? If perhaps there is something that comes up in mediation where one or both of the parties can maybe get a little heated, what is that? And we go through sort of questioning about, what does that look like? Is there a plan that you have if perhaps things aren't successful? So we're constantly monitoring and assessing safety, but certainly we have all the adaptations in place to make sure people are as comfortable as possible.
Excellent. So basically, it's probably different almost to each individual case, but from the time mediation begins to hopefully everybody gets along and in agreement and is comfortable and signs off, what's the usual timeline on that?
I'd say typically, and again, depends, there's exceptions to every rule, but typically I'd say about 2 to 3 months. So the way that we conduct the process is, first we need confirmation that both parties are willing to participate, because it is voluntary. Once we have that, we schedule intake appointments for the clients. And so those are individual private appointments where we would meet with each client. And those appointments are just between the client and the mediator. We kind of get a sense, an overview of why they've arrived at where they're at and how they're hoping things will proceed and move forward in a resolution and have their lives move forward beyond the separation. And then from that, we generally are scheduling 2-hour mediation sessions. And often they're wrapped up within 2 of those sessions. So between the intakes and depending on how busy we are, of course, as well, and between the intakes and each session, there's maybe 2 weeks in between. Sometimes there's homework, whether it's getting a home appraisal or trying out a certain temporary schedule to see if it's going to work. Things can go longer, but typically we're looking to make it as efficient as possible while still giving that time for, legal advice in between and making sure all the proper disclosure is in place as far as all the documentation that's required to make some sound decisions about.
Well, it sounds like I don't see any disadvantage with trying this from everything that you're saying so far. And we did touch on some of the advantages, but what in your opinion, what are like the major benefits of going to mediation?
Well, one that I hear, so I can speak to this maybe from the perspective of some of the feedback that we get, uh, and keeping in line with kind of a lot of the themes that you represent. I do often hear from fathers that they feel marginalized in the court system, and although when reading through the legislation, that doesn't necessarily translate. And I don't necessarily have to agree with that. But the reality is, this is the way a lot of fathers feel when they come to mediation. That sort of assumption is it's not kind of hanging over their head. It's simply a neutral place. There's no power imbalance that we're going to allow to take place in mediation. We have to make sure both parties are coming to an even table. And it's important that both parties are really heard and understood by the other person. So we do a lot of active listening and asking, in particular, did you hear what the other party has said? So things like that. So I think it's a really validating process for both parties. And I have had a lot of fathers say, especially if they've been in the court system, I really wish I would have come here first. This was, I was really maybe nervous or I was anxious, but this has been a comfortable place, and I really feel like I was heard and understood. So, and that goes for both parties, of course, but in particular, I do get feedback from fathers saying that they feel that it was an equal process, an equal opportunity process, and really we're asking the clients to be in the driver's seat. So we're not asking them to give up any, of their rights or their decision making. Essentially, what we're saying is you should be empowered in this process to both come to the table and collectively come up with an agreement.
Well, you mentioned, I like how you said driver's seat there. To me, just thinking off the top of my head, I would much rather have say in my future and control over things rather than maybe rolling the dice in court and now a judge is making the decision for you. So
Yes.
At least with mediation, you have some control over that, and to me that would be a very big advantage as well.
Yes, certainly. And I really appreciate when clients have found that if they have lawyers, they've been honest with them and they've said, we get a lot of referrals from lawyers and they've said, look, this is not a slam dunk. I can't tell you how this is going to go in court. You might want to try and work this out on your own first. So I really appreciate hearing that, because the reality is anything could happen. I do know a lot of judges. I have the utmost respect for them. They're wonderful people with a really difficult job. At the end of the day, it's like inviting a stranger, however well skilled they are, into your house to tell you how to deal with your children, right? So
Right.
usually mom and dad know best, or whoever the parents or the caregivers are know best. You're involved with the children. You know the schedules and the nuances. The judges are looking at a finite amount of basically paperwork and maybe hearing a little bit of actual words from your mouth, but for the most part, they're looking at a finite amount of information. There can be a lot of mudslinging in that information if people are jockeying to make their position look better and the other person look worse. And they have to make a decision based on that. So yeah, you're right. It's a gamble, and at the end of the day, lots of people get court orders. They've gone the distance. They paid all the money. They've had these high expectations, and we've seen them actually come to mediation after and say, neither of us are happy with this court order. And to me, that kind of makes sense in a way, because they didn't author that plan, right?
Right. Yeah. Like, I can't even imagine also like you said, the time and the money, the savings and all this that would, I know people who have been in court for 5, 6, 7 years still
Yeah.
ongoing. So that's got to be a pretty expensive bill at the end of the day.
Yeah. And I can't even imagine. I mean, and it's like, well, I guess we don't have to argue about, um, you know, this chunk of money anymore because it's gone.
Right.
Let's move on.
Right.
So yeah, it's tough. It's tough to see. It's a difficult decision to separate, and it's a difficult thing for people to go through, especially children. And um, I don't necessarily see people in the court system walk out of that better friends with a repaired co-parenting relationship. Whereas I have seen that time and again in mediation. There's been maybe communication's been repaired. There's been some understanding that wasn't there. There's been an apology for something that's happened that maybe otherwise wouldn't translate through in the court process. And certainly there's a lot of success in moving forward because you're you're in a relationship with this person, whether you like it or not. And every negative aspect of that just rains down on the children, and it makes their lives more difficult. So the more positive that you can make a difficult situation, the better off you are. And some people, the court's always there, right? I'm not saying it's not a useful place. It has its utility, but I think by and far, most people have the ability, if they dig deep, work hard, and have the right process to kind of work through this on their own, uh, and evolve with it.
Mm.
Because I see people coming back sort of maybe feeling a little bit shameful. Oh, well, this didn't work out. And it's like, well, welcome back. Things change.
Right.
It's time to work through it. I mean, my wife and I don't always agree, but we have to work hard at it's an evolving thing. Parenting children is not easy. Parenting from two different households makes it all the more difficult. So the expectation, I think, should be, and we try to kind of instill through mediation, is this is an ongoing process. And if you need to come back to tweak things, that's not a fail. That's you're choosing a positive way to do that, and an efficient and productive way to do that. So I think when people understand that, they kind of get that perspective that, yeah, we're in this together. We, like it or not, we got to make the best of this for the children.
Yeah, for sure. You're not always going to agree on everything, and the opportunity to come back, like you say, that's a positive. That shows that you might not agree, but you're still willing to communicate and talk. Uh, to me, court it's so adversarial, and you mentioned mudslinging and all that stuff.
Mhm.
Uh, I don't think court was originally designed to rule over families and who gets this amount of time and this amount of time with the children. Like, to me, court is for crimes against humanity and possession and theft of property and stuff like that. You know what I mean? But someone come in and basically tell you your future with your children is that's a lot for people in my own mind anyways. The mediation route just sounds so much better, where again you have a little bit of say, a little bit of control over it, rather than getting into that you know uh judgment is for whoever, and to win. Are you really winning? Do you win in court when you get a judge's ruling that you got 100% sole custody? Is that really a win for the children in the end?
Yeah, and absolutely, that's it. It's not a win for the children. They don't want to have to hear, mom and dad had to go and fight and fight over me, because children really take that on themselves. They don't think of it as, oh, mommy was bad or daddy was bad, or they think, well, I'm the problem because they're fighting about me. So they kind of internalize that as their problem. So, sometimes when people come to mediation, they say, the children are starting to ask, I know we're separating. There's a different ages, different information, but generally what I say is you can say you both, this is a difficult thing. Mom and dad are separating, but we both love you so much that we're going somewhere to make a plan that's best for you and best for everyone. And really that's the truth of it, right? You're going somewhere to talk it out and come up with a way to make a difficult situation as good as it can be.
Mm. Well, I'm glad you brought that up. Like how you said, the children often blame themselves. I'm
Yeah.
sure most people don't think that, especially in the beginning, and to know that that is a huge side effect that can translate and pass on to our kids. That's got to be a real eye opener for some when they hear that.
Yeah, it certainly is. And I think maybe there's some naivety around it because people can be defensive when they're separating. But I do sometimes challenge people's perspective, in particular when they say something like, oh, little Johnny doesn't know. No, little Johnny's sitting at the top of the stairs. If he's bigger, he might be reading texts. He's picking up on the energy in the room. He sees that mom and dad aren't in the same room anymore. He knows that mom goes out late, or, mom or dad's like upset or talking on the phone. They're they pick all that up. They're little, very perceptive little beings. And I think it's naive to think that they're not being exposed to something that's so powerful, like a separation. So
Mhm.
right away, the focus has to be on them and mitigating the damage that's inevitably, in one respect or another, a greater respect or not, going to be done to them, because if you ask any child, they're going to say, I want mom and dad to be together, right? That's what they want.
Mhm.
So how do you shift the focus to them and keep the focus on them? And really, if that's kind of where separating parties focus is at, and they're open to, things like mediation and counseling and other different um, services that can help them through this process, they're going to make the best of it, right? Their kids are going to be successful through this.
Excellent. That's like you say, that's not the most important thing. Something's wrong. So we've covered a lot, and we still got more to go. But I think we kind of mentioned earlier about how it's a much cheaper cost to go about this.
Yes.
Is there legal aid available, or what in essence what does this cost approximately in the end? And again, I'm sure it varies from situation to situation and whatever. But is there an approximation of cost, or how do you go about charging the fee for this?
Right. So it's based on income, number of dependents, like I said. So just to kind of give you a spread, if you make under $15,000, our our fees are $5 an hour. So anywhere up to, say, 54,000, you're looking at about $92 an hour with no dependents. So I I'm not sure where we top out at, but I would imagine it would never be more than $200 an hour. The intakes themselves are free. So we just charge for the time that we're in mediation itself. So when we're going back to kind of that, is there any risks? You can certainly show up for the intake, see if it's a right fit for you, and you're not spending any money at all. And if it doesn't work out, or you think maybe it's not for you, uh, you've you've burned an hour of your time, and that's that's about it. Um,
Mhm.
and if you're involved in court and you get referred to our on-site program, that's actually free. So that's subsidized completely by the ministry. So again, very risk-free, kind of hassle-free way to see if you can sit down together and talk things through.
So we've covered a lot of uh, how there really isn't that much risk at all, if any. Uh, that leads me to think or question: is there perhaps any myths out there, or things, misconceptions about mediation that you've heard of or people think?
Well, one thing that I always kind of have to sort of clarify, well, not always, I'm not going to say always, but often, uh, is the aspect of people sort of, thinking I'm going to be making decisions as a mediator. So that we kind of get rid of right away. And sometimes it's even people that have been in that sort of contentious mudslinging battle, uh, kind of are looking to convince me of something. And I have to remind them, first of all, um, I wasn't there. I'll never know really what happened. And secondly, I can't do anything with that information really unless someone's discussing putting someone else or a child at harm, which I would be obligated to report that. But otherwise, if it's just trying to make someone else look bad or make them look better, there's not much I can do with that. It's really, that's kind of past focus. So I say one of the big things is that there's an idea that the mediator needs to be convinced or swayed one way or the other. If they're good at what they do, they're going to remain neutral. There's nothing they're going to be able to sort of do with that information anyways. So really, it's not about what happened in the past, as maybe just for context and getting an idea of what process is going to best aid the parties. But after that, it's really about looking forward into the future. So that would be one. I'm trying to think. I think a lot of people think it's maybe more time consuming than and more involved than it has to be. And another issue too, or another myth, I think, is a lot of people have this perception if there's been any history of domestic violence or power imbalance, then that mediation is not appropriate. And although certainly that may be the case, that's not always the case. There's plenty of people who actually feel empowered if they've been the victims of domestic violence or power imbalance. They feel empowered in this process because it's an opportunity for them to, advocate for themselves. And sometimes that's with different supports in place, or as we discussed, different setups with whether or not there's face-to-face contact. But so I think that would be a big one as well. I'm trying to think of. I don't know. I think those are the big ones that I often see.
So you mentioned that they could come out feeling actually empowered over this. Have you seen in any of your practice over the years? Have you seen any extraordinary things take place? Have you seen a couple maybe reconcile on the spot,
Yeah.
or go from complete, like basically super high conflict, not speaking at all, to, what, hey, let's put some of this anger aside and really knuckle down and try to hammer out what's best, for the kids in this situation.
Yeah, absolutely, Steve. And it's great to see when there's those circumstances. We've seen some reconciliations for sure. Uh, and we've seen some people who may be too far gone, but then they don't reconcile, but they become better friends. And they say, you know what, if we would have been engaged in something like this process earlier on, perhaps we never would have split to begin with. Certainly helping to repair the co-parenting relationship, helping to provide different tools that seem, just they may seem insignificant, but when you hand people opportunities and tools to work with, it's amazing how much it can revolutionize their co-parenting relationship. And we've seen people come back. We used to talk about the parking lot scenario. So two people show up to their first session, separate cars, slam the door, stomp in, looking pretty sullen. Second session, they're actually coming in together. Third session, they brought each other coffee. They're exchanging the child's hockey equipment, looking at pictures on their phone and joking, and thanking us for the opportunity to repair that co-parenting relationship. Again, maybe their romantic relationship between them is done, but there's a equal important relationship that has to be maintained. So yeah, we've seen some of those feel-good moments for sure.
It must be just a great sight to see, knowing that you've, repaired opened the lines of communication again for some of these people and all that. That obviously that must be very fulfilling for you, but what are some of the other things that you enjoy most about being a mediator and helping these families?
It might be sort of an idealistic perspective, but just the idea that really at the end of the day, my job, if I really distill it down, is uh, the most important aspect of it is trying to make children's lives as good as they can be. And really that's my focus. Um, because it's tough for children to go through this. Again, like I said, it's not easy for them. And when, you know, we can help to remove a roadblock or help show people how to extend that olive branch, or just to begin communicating and talking uh, for the benefit of the children, or how are they going to interact so that they can both be at the child's talent show, right? And there's no issues, and the child doesn't have to decide who they're going to sit with, or um, that's I think that would be the what really drives me forward, because I mean it is difficult work, but at the end of the day, if you're making children's, I mean they didn't ask for this, right? They're the innocent victims in all of this. So that's I find that really rewarding and really important, and that's kind of where I keep my focus at.
Oh, that's great to hear. It's just, I couldn't agree more with you on that. We've learned a ton today. I appreciate you coming in and sharing all this with us. I don't know if I've asked all the questions. Is there anything that you want to add as we kind of wrap things up here today?
Well, I think just maybe reiterate that if you're separating, or you know someone that is, or they've separated and maybe they're running into trouble, just give us a call. Take a look at our website. Um, reach out to, if not us, another mediator, and just see if you can make a go of it. And really, if you give an honest effort, and both parties do, it's really there's a high success rate in mediation. And again, the benefits far outweigh any of those small little risks. You can have a lawyer, and you can be working alongside with the lawyer. You can have a court process. So whatever the circumstance, I would say, if you're listening in and you have questions, give us a call. If you've, you know, have someone who you think needs maybe our services, maybe point them in our direction. Again, it's really something that I think needs to be explored as soon as possible, and usually it really can really change the outcome of a separation to be as positive as it can be.
It would make sense. The earlier you start, the higher the chance of success for it, I would imagine.
Yeah, and and sometimes people just aren't ready. Maybe they're still hurt. Maybe so. There's a aspect of patience that has to be afforded to. We call them the leavor and the leavee. So
Mhm.
if the leavor wants to get going, they have their new life, and emotionally they've been done with the relationship for years, perhaps. But you can be a little patient with the other person to catch up and sort of maybe digest the fact that the relationship, come to terms with the fact that the relationship is done. Um, yeah, as soon as both parties are ready to come to the table and talk, um, you don't have to make a plan for your whole life either. You can talk about the next 2 months. You can talk about what happens until the house sells. You can talk about, just starting to get all of the right documents together so that you can make a plan. So there's no task too small or too big that we wouldn't be willing to help parties with.
Oh, that's excellent. Thank you so much for being here. Give, in case anyone needs your information, what do you guys have, your social media, and then what's the best way to get in touch with you guys?
Yep. So you can call us at 519-946-0808, or visit our website at www.bfc-mediation.com.
Excellent. Thank you so much for being here. I think people are going to find this fascinating and eye opening, and uh, super thrilled to have you. And good luck with everything. And hope that we can resume normal life soon and get out of this COVID mess that we're in. But thank you very
Me
much
too.
for being here today. I really appreciate it.
Yeah. Thanks for having me, Steve.
No problem.
Thanks again to our guest, Adam Mckinley, mediation specialist with Bridging Family Conflict Mediation and Information Services serving Windsor and Essex County. We hope that you enjoyed our show and found it very informative listening to Adam speak about family mediation and the many benefits this process can have. There are numerous reasons for relationships to break down, but in most cases, someone who may have been a bad partner does not necessarily mean that they were a bad parent. We at the Fantastic Fathers Community Group definitely urge parents to rise above their situation and truly do what is in the best interests for their children. Most of the modern parenting studies are overwhelmingly in favor of children having access to both parents and recommend a shared custody scenario whenever possible. Thank you for watching, and please give us a like on Facebook on our Open Fantastic Fathers page, or follow us on Instagram at Fantastic Fathers Windsor. Take care, everyone, and stay safe.